welcome to this very special episode of Inspiration with one of the best white ball players, one of the best players, and one of the best statesmen our game has at this point in time. Someone I have covered very closely, observed very closely, reported on very closely, be it his World Championship final, be it the many matches that has featured Jos Buttler, the leader in terms of both on and off the field, and now playing a leading role for the Rajasthan Royals. Welcome, Jos. Welcome, and thank you very much for speaking to me. First and foremost, at this point in time, the team's looking at you both on and off the field. You have always enjoyed a leadership role in terms of the way I have seen, whether your comments about the nature of the game, about your comments about in every situation. How do you see your role in the team at this point in time?
First, thanks for having me. And, also I think, seeing my role at the team at the moment, is to try and pass on experience and try and lead from the front in the way I play and the way I train. I think that's really important. Obviously at the Royals, Sanju is in his first year of captaincy. I've done a lot of vice captaincy work with the England team. So just trying to sort of, help him along the way when he asks for help, or if I see anything to try and just suggest it and that kind of thing. And we have lots of really exciting young Indian players. So I think it's important for myself and the likes of David Miller and Chris Morris as overseas players, AJ Ty as well, lots of experience to try and assist those guys and help them learn and try and pass on any skills that we've learned along our journey so far.
Jos, you just mentioned about vice captaincy for England. That's right. But for me, what stands out is there is a difference between a captain and a leader, and you are the leader. So is there a difference? And you might not be captain, but again, as leader, when the team isn't in a good space or isn't doing greatly well, what is the role of a leader? Can you tell me a little bit more in detail?
It's a really good question. I think, as you say, captain is obviously a leader, but there's many leaders on cricket pitches. Like you say, there's guys who lead from example, guys who lead with their actions, guys who can lead with their words, and also guys who can lead without saying anything at all. And that is a big strength sometimes of leaders to remain very stoic and actually very logical about things. And I think that's a big strength a lot of the time of good leaders. Certainly when I think about the England team that I play in, there's many different leaders, like you say, within that side. And one, Owen Morgan is the best captain and best leader I've ever played under. But there's lots of guys around that. Ben Stokes is a fantastic leader of people in a very different way, and he's not the captain. His actions and he's a very inspirational player and can lead like that. So as you say, I think leadership is a really important part of good teams. A lot of time, I think you have to work out what team you're in amongst, how the people who are in that team need leading. Some teams can lead themselves, in terms of if you're playing in very experienced teams and guys who enjoy freedom and enjoy responsibility. Maybe as a leader at that point, you need to step back and allow guys to flourish and have that freedom. Maybe in other teams, certain players or certain people will need a bit more guidance and a bit more ushering in a certain direction. But I think as a good leader, you need to have trust amongst people and amongst players. So, the quicker you can build those lines of communication and build lines of trust, that will help you to have relationships with people, which will allow you to lead in a multitude of ways.
Questions, one off the field, one on the field. Off the field, I was seeing these photographs of you with the young one and family. And believe me, the moment I saw that photograph, I was like, if this is the injection of positivity and happiness in that team, then it must be a good space. So how important is that to have a child and family together in these tough times inside the bio bubble? Give me a sense of bubble life, because obviously there is a mental toll, obvious, but this is at least for the time being the way forward. Things will get better. So that's question number one. Question number two is, now that there's no Ben Stokes, obviously the team depends on Jos Buttler that much more. How do you deal with pressure? Is there pressure, or do you treat it as an opportunity and enjoy the challenge?
Yeah. So the first part, family is everything, isn't it? Really, family is vitally important. I'm really fortunate that the Royals made it possible for me to have my wife and daughter here with me. Unfortunately, they've now had to leave. With India's gone on the red list for the UK, so they've travelled home. But it's really special to have them here, and the Royals really are a family franchise and live true to that, which is very special. Having my daughter come to training and stuff, it just made it really fun and really. Yeah, I think children can, especially at that age, teach you so much about, we're here playing high pressured sport, and we're taking ourselves very seriously and trying our best. But my daughter doesn't care if I get 0 or 100, or she just wants love and affection and some fun. And I think that is, one of the greatest reminders of what we're doing is, playing a game that, of course, is very serious now, but we started playing that game because we loved it and we had fun doing it, and that is the real nature of why we play. So children remind you of that, and it makes you see the kid in yourself as well. So that's really special, because and like you say, bubble life is tough, and it's the pandemic has been tough for everyone. So we're very fortunate to be able to still be doing our job and playing the sport we love. But it's obviously very restrictive to how it usually was, and it just, that, as with everyone is feeling around the world, that sort of claustrophobic feeling of lockdowns and bubbles and stuff. So especially doing it, the pressures of the sport as well, sometimes finding that release is not quite so easy at the moment. But everyone is getting a lot of support with that, and I think mental health has become a big awareness in sport, especially over the last few years, and is now not such a taboo subject. So that's a real positive I see. And then secondly, like you say, of course, any team in the world would miss a Ben Stokes. And you take a Ben Stokes out of any team, it's of course going to be a huge challenge. And as you say, in sort of expectations on myself, I expect a lot of myself all the time anyway. Whatever team I'm in, I want to be the best version of myself and play to a level that I know I can, and do the best for my team. So added pressures, I think, when you look at it really, and if I'm in a good headspace, they're outside pressures. The things that I can actually control are very similar. I can't do any more than the stuff that I can really control, and the stuff that I can take action on. And then the rest of it is, I just have to have an acceptance that some people will say I'm under more pressure, or some people, and that's the same, in all the teams you play, in all the times you're playing, that there are, you have to block out the noise to allow yourself to be able to perform at your best, I feel.
Interesting you say that. I mean, two questions. How important is acceptance in sport? In the sense, when I was writing Sachin's autobiography, this is one question we kept asking each other, that yes, you might be the best batsman in the world, but there will be days when you're not performing at your best. So how do you accept that? How do you come to terms with that? How do you sort of make your ego less important when you're batting out there, and give the bowler his due, give him the respect? Tell me about it. I mean, Jos Buttler is exceptional. We both know it. You are a super talent, but there will be days when those shots are not coming, difficult conditions. How important is acceptance, and how do you make your ego secondary when you're batting out there?
Yeah, that's a really important point. And as something, I'm still struggling with at times, to allow yourself to, we all know, like you say, how well you can play and what your level can be. So to be able to swallow your ego sometimes and say, look, I'm not actually feeling like I'm playing that well at the moment, and I've still got to find a way to score some runs, and like you say, accept that today isn't necessarily my day, but can I make it as good as possible? And so that's a really great learning, I think, something I'm always learning. And acceptance of things is a really important thing. I feel like it can be like a roadblock in the road, until you can accept things, you can't move past that. Whether that's, and it doesn't mean, especially like the negative thoughts that, we all have them that come into our heads sometimes. And it's not about sort of ignoring them. I think about acknowledging them, about accepting them, and then either quietening them down or then coming back to focus on, what can I control at the moment. So for me, going into matches, in practice, I really look at the things, there's a couple of things that I would say, have I done X, Y, and Z in practice, which makes me feel confident and that I've prepared as well as I can to go into a match. So that allows my headspace to be as good as possible. And then sort of understanding situations. I think, as you touched on it, we have to have an acceptance sometimes that it's not perfect. Yet you can still perform when you're in that situation. I was actually having a really good conversation last night with Kumar Sangakkara about that. It's about scoring runs, and you don't have to be perfect all the time. And he was talking about test matches where he felt awful for an hour, but managed to get through it and then hit one shot and was like, okay, I'm away again now. So yeah, it's a constant battle, I'd say.
Yeah, and the reason I asked you that question is, when you get into the mental space, and again, I will refer to a conversation with one of India's the only Olympic medal winner, Abhinav Bindra, and Abhinav won the gold in shooting in 2008. And I asked him, as a very dear friend, I said, how did you deal with success? And he was like, to be able to deal with success is so much more difficult than to be able to deal with failure. Because you've been there, done that. All of a sudden, Jos Buttler's won the World Cup. What is there to win? You've achieved everything. Ultimately, a player plays to win the World Cup. Jos Buttler has won it at the age of 24. So you have achieved everything. How is that? That for me, you are that 0.1% in the world who's a world champion. To motivate yourself day in, day out for a franchise game, for a club game, for a county game. How tough is it, Jos? Yes, I understand you're playing franchise cricket, but you are also human. Do you feel the same motivation? And if not, how do you deal with such challenges?
I feel like I certainly had a period where, maybe only for a few months, where I felt that after the World Cup of sort of, all your dreams have come true, and it's, as you say,
exactly.
It's like, now what do you do? And I think I was quite naive, actually, in the sense that I thought that moment would allow me to just sort of freewheel the rest of my career and just have fun and not see, it's like I've done what I really wanted to do, and now I can just, hopefully the rest will just fall into place by, just enjoyment. I won't feel the pressures again because of, we had that crazy match where it was, and we ended up on the right side, and, I won't worry about cricket anymore now that that's happened. But, absolutely, as soon as, the next games come and that realization of, okay, actually it's been and gone, that's in the past. There's so many more things now there's another game, there's more runs to score, there's more catches to take, there's more matches to win. And that's gone. And that excitement and that drive for success. And also, I think sometimes when you've tasted that, you want to taste it again, and taste it again of, winning a franchise tournament, winning a test match series, winning an ODI or T20 series. You get that appetite. You want to feel that elation again. So, and also you're being true to yourself a lot of the time as well, even though, and that you've got to, as opposed to seeing that as a burden or sort of well, I've done it. Can you flip your perception and actually think, I can use that as a real strength of mine now moving forward with the rest of my career, that I've had that experience of being as you say, a World Cup winner. How can I use that to better me now in the next match I play, in the next tournament I play? How can I use those reserves to make me an even better player? And my sort of thing that drives me and motivates me is I want to try and reach my potential, and I don't feel like I've got there. That's my burning ambition, is to try and get to the level that I think I'm capable of getting to. And that's what motivates me to train and stuff. So no, that hasn't really changed. There was certainly a period after for a few months after the World Cup where it took a little bit of time, but that's certainly come back now.
A few more questions. One, when I see you, there is also about being a role model. I mean, about using sport as a platform, because sport is perhaps one of the best platforms that civil society has. You have, I have. You're a role model in front of millions to fight against inequality, gender inequality, monetary, economic, multiple social inequalities. How do you see this franchise tournament? I mean, people of multiple countries coming together, cosmopolitan, multicultural. We are speaking out against race, speaking out against class, speaking out against everybody. When you mentor a Sanju Samson, a message goes out. We know Black Lives Matter. How does Jos Buttler want to leave a legacy in terms of using his sport to tell society about being a better society?
I think I try and think about that sort of thing too much. I try and, of course, have an understanding that, as a status of a cricketer and an international cricketer, you have to be a really good role model. But whether I was an international cricketer or not, I think I've been brought up to try and be a good person. So I don't think that changes whether I'm an international cricketer or whether I'm, working in the supermarket down the road from my parents. I've been brought up to be a good person, to understand right and wrong. But you say absolutely, it's really important when you do have a platform that you live true to that and you show that. I think that some of the teams I play in, obviously the IPL is a fantastic mix of players, and it's fantastic to come and learn about different cultures and spend time with different people and educate yourself about other people's culture. And as you say, at certain times show that is a fantastic thing, that people can come together and work together, and we're all on a level playing field. And I certainly, England is a very multicultural country. Our ODI team and Test match team especially really represent that. We have lots of different backgrounds, lots of different cultures. And I think, look at that World Cup team that won, and the diversity within the group was a huge strength of ours. We have obviously Moeen Ali and Adil Rashid Muslim players in our side. We have guys who've grown up in different countries but come to the UK. We have many different backgrounds from state school to private school, and all coming together and working together with no agenda, and learning that diversity is strength. So I think that's a big part of it, and of course I think as international sportsmen we do have a platform to show what's right and wrong, and we must not be scared of that burden.
Two more questions. One, not the best start for the Royals. I mean, I have to come to cricket in that sense. Where does a team sort of take it from here, Jos? I mean, yes, you have potential. Everyone knows the team has some really good players, not the greatest start. How do you turn things around, especially when so many young people and when you're missing key players? As a leader, how do you turn things around?
Yeah, we have to stay very true to what we stand for as a team and a franchise. We must keep believing. You must keep the faith. As you say, we've got so many good players, so much talent. And in T20 cricket, a lot of the time it takes one or two people to have a day out to win the game. So, for a couple of guys to stand up is always an opportunity. Of course, we're going to miss Ben Stokes. We're going to miss Jofra Archer. They're two world stars, but at the same time you flip the perception on that gives opportunity to others. You have some really exciting young players who may get the chance now to play because those two guys aren't here, and that's really exciting. And I think that's one of the great things about the IPL is it offers opportunity and chances, and develops especially young Indian talent, which we've got plenty in our team. So I look for those guys to really relish that opportunity.
That was my final one. I mean, when you see a Chetan Sakaria making it what he is doing at the moment, as a sports person, it makes you feel better, because that's the whole thing about sport, isn't it? It's about making our world better. And here's somebody losing a family member, coming through, winning games, making a contribution. Tell me about that. I mean, a Chetan Sakaria, Rian Parag, all these guys makes you feel so good about sport.
Absolutely. No, that's a brilliant thing about sport. It's a brilliant thing about the IPL is the opportunity it offers for these guys. And Chetan especially is someone I've loved being in a team with so far. Of course, you mentioned he's obviously had a tough few months with some things that happened, but his character is amazing. Really, he's such a zest for life. He has one of the best smiles I've ever seen, and he's smiling the whole time, whether he's in the hotel, at training, on the games, and he's quite an inspirational guy to be around. I think just for his love of life that really comes across, and and I think some of the things he does is just more senior players like me. It's like, God, you really remember this guy just loves playing the game and he loving this opportunity, and just because you are who you are, that is exactly why we play cricket. So these young guys are brilliant to be around. They have such passion and enjoyment in the game, and that really rubs off on everyone. So delighted for Chetan. He's been doing brilliantly, and he seems to have a great character for the IPL. He just wants to be in the mix so yeah, I think he's got a great future ahead.
Just a word on Kumar and Sanju, especially Kumar, because as a dear friend of mine, I know how Kumar thinks. He must be a very, very good person to have around.
Yeah, absolutely. Very level guy, a very sees things. Seems to say very calm. And I think again, it's one of these amazing things about the IPL to have the opportunity to work with Kumar Sangakkara. It's a real legend of the game. And just to be in his company, everyone just is sat and listening and trying to pick up bits and pieces, and it's quite special, really. So the way he talks about the game, the way he sees the game, it's great to at times even just sit and listen and talk about other forms of the game as well, and his sort of journey as a cricketer, and the ways he would prepare, etc. So lots of learning on that, and then obviously for the team, his expertise and direction, and I think his character is one real strength. Of course, like you say, at a moment in our team at the moment when we've had some losses and not playing to our potential, the way he manages to stay very calm and level and logical is going to stand us in really good stead to help us get back to our best.
I'll finish off saying two things. You said it wouldn't have mattered whether you worked in the supermarket or whether you played sport, because ultimately it's about being a good human being. And from what I've not been friends with you, but I've followed you and reported on you, written about you, you are. So your parents will be proud. We all are. As somebody who is part of our profession. And I'll say this, sport is all about improving society, making lives better. And you know what, Jos Buttler, you're actually making a telling contribution in doing so. More power to you, more strength to you, more power and more happiness to the family. Stay healthy, stay safe. Keep contributing and keep giving us something to cheer about, something to be happy about. You're an aspirational tale. You fulfill dreams, and hopefully your dream, every dream, comes true. Thank you very much for your time.
That's very kind. Thank you very much.